Good afternoon, everybody. I had a great lunchtime. So we're going to talk about PHP code standards. A real quick introduction of myself. My name is Gabriel Caruso. I'm working for a company called Leroy Merlin, but if I get like 5 stars on joining, I probably get another company called Billa. This is my goal for this talk. I like PHP. I've been working with PHP for not longer than 3 or 4 years. I'm a PHP SP member. PHP SP is a community in Brazil. SP stands for São Paulo. I like to contribute to open source. So once you know how you can start to contribute to open source, you can talk with me. Also, I like stickers. I like elephants. So if you have elephants to give to me, please. Thanks. No. Yeah. Okay, so to start talking about code standards, we need to understand what code standards are, because sounds like trivial, like the definition of code standards, but when I decided to like write this talk, I realized it can be not complicated, but like there are many branches. So for example, the code branch, like for is all about organization. So how you organize, how it looks, and how you can like structure code. And for the team, it's all about letting the team focus on the business logic, like shipping the code, and like everything without losing not losing time. And then comes the question: why should your team use code standard? Uh, there are some reasons. The first one, you can share patterns instead of have like a potential like this team do not use double quotes. You can like automate that shit. As I said, you can focus on business logic instead of like during the code review, as in the last step, during the code review, instead of like, okay, you need to refactor this, this, and this. You can like automate that shit and like be it focus in the business logic. There are three like code something. There is code standards, code design, and code style. So code standards is like pattern to the code. So for example, we have doctrine code standards. It's like those like simple rules. These are code standards. We have code design. That, for example, strict programming is a code design. So your code is strict. That's the designer of code. Did it design code, for example? And you have like code style. That is almost like the style of the code. For example, JavaScript, a JavaScript like mimification, that is like the design of JavaScript. And PHP is like you identify PHP code by the open tag. So this is like, they are similar, but not the same. An example of code standards is PSRs. Like you not need to follow, like they are not rules, but are like suggestions how to structure code PSR 0 and 1, if I'm not wrong. So how can you ensure these standards? There are two ways. The first one is the most common one, when you like use automated tools. So for example, PCS Fixer and PHP Code Sniffer. And there a lot of people like don't understand the difference between two tools. Like I listed all of like the difference, but are the two main difference. The first one is that PHP says Fixer needs to fix your code. The fixer, the class, they fix your code. The PHP Code Sniffer are linkers. So for example, it can be used to like be a mess detector. So for example, your method has, I don't know, 100 lines. So that is why Doctrine Code Center, as I said before, use PHP Code Sniffer, because like we can not only check for like refactorings, but we can also check for example, there's a term cyclomatic complexity. It can be detected by PHP Code Sniffer, for example. And another way to check your code standards is, for example, in the continuous integration pipeline. So you can have like a step in the PHP pipeline, in the continuous integration pipeline, when you like, instead of running the tests, you can define that before the test is going to run all the code standards. And also a Git hook, so you can avoiding commit all the like fixed code standards commits, because it affects your Git history. Uh, there's always like we developers always deal with bugs. So there are some cases like you are like looking for a bug, and you're like, oh, I found the commit that introduced the bug. And how is the message? Fix code standards, or fix CS, or fix stats. So having this Git hook avoids you to have those commits. So you can like blame the right commit, you can git bisect the right commit, and like create the necessary fix CS commits, as I said. Uh, so like how can we implement these code standards? It's kind of easy, like you need to use one of those tools, but can be a little complicated. Why? Because you can like implement, like install the project, and then start to define all the rules. You can actually, I created 4 steps that I believe is the easiest way to do it. So the first one is like code standards in the most pure form. So for example, instead of using double quotes, you can use single. So this is not going to affect any logic in the code. It's only going to, like, it's the design, all the thing that we said. We also have another step that is about strict programming. So for example, as we said, as a code design, you can strictly define a strict design your code, and I like define that in the second step. The third step is about the PHP 7 scalar types, because for example, there's a fixer when it starts to convert all the documentation into PHP 7 types, and like can be a little bit complicated because the documentation sometimes is old, is not up to date, so you can get like really pretty confused. And the last step is about strict types, so it's defining the declared strict types on top of the file. And that one is the most complicated one because it breaks a lot of code. So this is why tests are important. But like install the project, follow these 5 steps, these 4 steps, and you should be really ready to go. And I realized that I went too fast. So I need to figure out what to do in the next 10 minutes. So I can show you, for example, the doctrine code standards. Doctrine code standards. Okay, without internet. Okay, here it goes. So Doctrine code standard is an example of a tool that you can use. It's built on top of PHP code sniffer, as I said. And remember that when I said like code standards can become like really about code design and code strict. There's a rule that we merged recently. Uh, recently updated. Close it. Help me, internet, please. Or no. Okay, here. So for example, PHP code standards is not just about like doing over like single quotes over double quotes. It can get like a really deep in the code and can become like, for example, if the internet helps me. So we realized that, for example, in doctrine, a lot of this var annotation over the properties or over the variables, but instead we should use like assert, the function assert over that annotation. So we define a sniff, detects these annotations and convert to assert. So this is the part of the talk that I mentioned that PHP, where it is? It's here. That, for example, the code design. So the design of the code, the doctrine code, is like strict at the time that instead of using annotation, we're going to use assert. So for example, this is a code design. Thank you very much.